right now, what is happening in front offices where you have the trade deadline coming up, you just had the All-Star break, you've got your team back. Like, can you talk me through what it's like to target somebody in a trade and try and execute that trade? So from the targeting to the negotiation to the execution of that trade, what is happening right now in a front office? Is this weekend very important for those teams? Because you said it was a huge weekend for a team like the Mariners. So how important is that? And what is, we'll take the Mariners, for example. What is that front office doing right now?
Well, the first thing they got to do is figure out what their flexibility level is, how much payroll they can take on, whether or not they have to shed. And that comes only from the owner and the president and the CFO, because all of this trade deadline talk, it's all about money, way more so than players. As a matter of fact, when you're making a trade, Coca, the first thing you talk about is the money. You don't even talk about player for player who's in the trade. So if we've got, let's just say that you are trading, check out what Zach Gallen's making this year, Coca, if you don't mind, while we're doing this. When someone calls the Diamondbacks and says, hey, I'd have an interest in Zach Gallen, what the Diamondbacks would say in return is, all right, he is priced to move. That's what we mean when we say we're not taking any of his money. We're not going to pay a dollar of his money because we've got enough teams who will take Zach Gallen as is and give us good enough prospects that if you're not willing to take on whatever's left, and the trade deadline's July 31st, that leaves 2 months of the season left, which is 1/3 of the season. So whatever
13.5 million.
So just call it for math purposes 4.6, just for fun off the top of my head. So someone's got to take on 4.6 million for Zach Gallen. So that is the first thing that comes up. Hey, we have interest in Zach, but we don't have capacity to take on 4.6. Then the Diamondbacks say, all right, he's available. We'll pay the 4.6, but we want the following players. And we actually have a list that we have during our trade deadline meetings in the room where we do the trade deadline from. We've got a list for players who we have who are making money of what we want from teams were we to pay the rest of the contract or what we're willing to give to teams if they're willing to take on the contract. And so it's different trades. And so what you're doing in the front office is you're assigning different teams to different people. So the GM would say, I'll call the following 5 teams and talk about trades because I've got a good relationship with their GM. Or the president of baseball ops will say, well, I'll take the Yankees because I'll deal with Cashman, as an example. You've got the AGMs who are there doing all the support, collecting all of the information about the systems of the other teams. Who's in the minor leagues, who's in the big leagues, who's available for trade, who's likely to be traded, who's selling, who's buying. They compile all that. So you're armed with all this information, but it all sort of torpedoes up to the top, which, what do we got on the money? What do we got on the business side of this? And the best GMs in baseball can have great deadlines, and it doesn't matter what their owner has told them, whether they can take on money or actually have to shed money, because then you're actually counting on your ability to scout players and your ability to identify talent in other organizations. And that is not about analytics. That is about eyes. And that's why it's so important to have good scouts.
So are you letting players know, like during the break, or is this something that you're just waiting for things to materialize before you just say like, hey, listen, there could be a possibility that we're going to trade you? Or is this just something that they know from just, being educated
Yeah,
by
I
themselves?
rarely did that. I rarely did that, Coke. I did it with AJ Ramos. I was very close with AJ, and I said, by the way, we're trading you at the deadline. I believe that was my last year in baseball. He and Stanton were best friends, and I just wanted them to know. We can check when AJ was traded, but my guess is deadline of 17, when we were not in the race the way I wanted to be. And I said to AJ in the clubhouse, I said, we have trades in place where we're going to move you. And we had a moment together. We're still in touch. He's still working with the Marlins. He's going to have a whole career in broadcasting. He's a father now with 2 kids. My God, it's hard to imagine how time has passed. But the majority of players, you just call them after the trade's been done and you say, hey, we've traded you. Now, if a player would come talk to me prior to the deadline and say, are you looking to move me? I would be honest with that player. And I would say either yes or no if we are or if we aren't. But I would always tell the player the same thing. We're not looking to move you, but listen, at the deadline, we get some crazy calls. And just so you know, if there's a team that wants to overpay for you, we're going to make the deal. I'll let you know, but we're going to make the deal.
That was 2017 when you moved.
It was
when you moved Ramos.
Did we move into the Mets?
Yeah, you did. You did move into the Mets. Speaking of the Mets, David Stearns. A lot of the reporting about what the Mets are doing is that Stearns is saying, "Hey, we're just going to do some small deals. We're not looking for to land any big fish." Is that just to try and get ahead of it? Where it's like if you come out and you say, "Hey, we are going all in. We are looking to land significant starting pitching," and then you don't
ever do that.
You get all that pushback.
Yeah. So I tell people this often, and I think I've said it to you before on Nothing Personal. What the Braves did in 2019 is the definition of what David Stearns wants to do in 2025. And they won the damn World Series, bringing in Rosario and Duvall and Soler. So for me, why would you ever tell your fan base, hey, we're in? Why would you ever tell your fan base, hey, we're going all in, we're getting the big guy? No, if you get him, make it a surprise. But it's the deals on the margins that actually help the most. Occasionally you get the CC Sabathias, which we talked about during the main show, but not often. Often it really is done on the margins. And that's my view of GMs in general. And I've got so criticized. I had words with Michael Hill about this concept, and we're very, very close, as you know. I don't need a GM to tell me that we should be trading for, Mike Trout. That's not interesting to me. Or then when Ohtani's a free agent, hey, I think we should go after Ohtani. I can hire anyone to tell me that. I want the GM at the deadline who's coming to me with players who I'd say, oh God, it didn't even wait. Does that fit? Where are you fitting that? Why that player? Or players in a trade never heard of. I never heard of. You know what? If I told you that I heard of Dontrelle Willis when we traded for him, I'd be lying to you. I'd never heard of the guy. I'd never seen the guy ever. And they were like, hey, it's a lefty.
Do you think you would have done things differently with how baseball is now with the extended wild card and having that race be like the race is better for that final wild card spot, but now there aren't, as many sellers as there used to be ahead of a deadline, and everybody's sort of looking to buy and sell. Like it's really changed the dynamic of how teams are approaching the deadline. Do you like that more?
I love it. I always wanted to be a buyer. I always wanted to dream because I always say to myself, we have a third of a season left, and I would do it in innings. Who gives up on a game in the sixth inning? So much can happen in the seventh, eighth, and ninth inning. It's like leaving the stadium. Oh my God, we're down 4-1 in the sixth. That's it. I'm leaving. It's ridiculous. You have 33% of the game left. So the season's the same. Why would, if I'm even the Marlins today, the Orioles today, it's responsible and meaningful to say that you're out of it and to act appropriately. But I used to always say in my head, we're only 8 games back. It's 8 games. We have a third of a season to go. But then you get people around you to be realistic and to say, dude, we're out of it. And you want your GM signed to longer term contracts so they understand that they're acting not just for now, but for the future. If you go year by year with people, they only care about this year. And then you'd always be told, oh man, we're going for it. We've got this. So everything was related to me. When I ran a team, I did everything purposefully. Of course, the way things are discussed or thought of, it's as though I wasn't thinking at all. But I promise you, Coca, as you know me well, I was thinking completely about everything.